While the team has been called the Indians for more than a century, Cleveland baseball is parting ways with its logo, Chief Wahoo.
I honestly never...
The NFL's Washington Redskins are changing the team name and the team's Native American logo, a name and a logo many found offensive.
7 years of history. It'll be officially announced today. What's your reaction to the change in Washington?
Well, it's about time, first and foremost.
We begin tonight with a dramatic change in the sports world. Washington's NFL team is punting its name, the Redskins.
My name is Marcus Scauso. I am a assistant professor of political science and a doctorate in political science, primarily focusing on international relations and political theory. I research issues of colonial legacies and what's called decolonial alternatives, or ways to move beyond these colonial legacies and some of the problems that they've created.
So in general, what is your opinion on the call to change offensive logos for some teams that some cultures deem offensive?
The easiest way to think about this issue is if it's deemed offensive and is hurting a group of people that have already been hurting because of a bunch of issues of privilege and colonial legacies and whatnot, then why not? I mean, it is a necessary transformation in order to stop using somebody else's culture as something that we can sell and just use for merchandise. It's using somebody else's identity as an object that we can sell and buy and use for marketing issues. Obviously, that is not the entire problem of inequality or colonial legacies or whatnot, but it's one more thing. So why not get rid of it?
100 years of racism is enough in Cleveland, Ohio. 100 years plus. Change the name of your baseball team and change the logo.
Save the chief! Save the chief!
You got three people protesting. Big deal. Go try. It's a caricature. Get over it.
What do you think the reason is that people are so passionate on both sides of the issue about changing these logos?
I think that there are two aspects of why people don't want to give up these logos, and there might be more, but two that come to mind right now. One of them is related to all forms of team-based loyalty and identity and whatnot. So maybe there is a little bit to that, right? One creates the idea of a team, and there's passion, and there is loyalty, and all of the aspects of the team become the identity that we view as something that we want to see winning competitions or be loyal to and whatnot. But I think that there is something deeper than that. To give up these logos and to give up these notions also entails the acknowledgement of our privilege, the acknowledgement that we should not be using somebody else's identity for our own entertainment or the marketing or whatever. So I think that there is something deeper in the sense that if we are willingly giving up these logos, it also means that in a sense we're acknowledging the privilege that it comes with that. And maybe some people are now willing to question those aspects of art, cultural legacies and privilege more in general.
Far from uncommon in Massachusetts for schools to use Native American names and images for their sports teams and logos. In fact, dozens of them do. But should they?
My hometown of Wakefield, Massachusetts is currently going through a heated debate about its warrior logo that depicts a Native American chief. The Board of Selectmen have decided to keep the warrior name but no longer promote the Native American logo we have used before. although all the previously used jerseys, field logos, etc. will remain until they are phased out with a new logo in the coming years. I sat down with lifetime resident and active member of the Waco community, Richard Johnson, and asked for his thoughts on the ruling. Do you think this is an effective compromise? Do you think this will work in the long run, or just kick the problem down the road?
You can be a warrior and not necessarily be tied to or representative of Native Americans. So I think the name is fine. I don't see an issue with that at all. You could have it be anything. It could be a cartoon character. It could be a W. It doesn't matter what it is. But so warrior, I think that's fine. Phasing things out, I think it just makes economic sense. There are things probably that have the logo on it that aren't easily replaced. So, as those wear down and need to be replaced, then you replace them with whatever the new accepted logo is. So I think it makes sense. It makes economic sense, especially for your community as far as, the cost associated with changing everything like that at one time would be, probably cost prohibitive. I don't think it really kicks it down the road. I think once the community accepts the change and gets used to the change, then it's just, I think there'll always be people that hang on to it, the bumper stickers and the stickers on the cars and stuff like that. They'll be passionate about it, but over time, the change will be accepted, and those images or whatever they are will be phased out, and it'll just be the norm, to be whatever the new logo ends up being. So I think it's a fine compromise, and I think the way it's being done it just makes sense from an economic standpoint, and from letting the community kind of absorb it and get used to it over a longer period of time.
Do you think this is an effective compromise, or do you think this is just an example of them kicking the problem down the road?
I guess to some extent it's compromise in the sense that at least the company won't have to give up the investment that it had in all the merchandise that has the logos and whatnot. But at the same time, there is no compromise in the sense that they're not acknowledging that they're been using a logo and somebody else's culture as a symbol of a team. And so there's no real and deep acknowledgement of the problem that takes place when we use cultural expropriation for our own benefits. We'll stop doing it, but without costs, kind of thing. These things have had costs for the people whose cultures have been used to sell things. And so we should get rid of these logos and merchandise and everything else immediately. And if we're talking about ethics and justice, perhaps pay back for the usage of these logos to make money. So there's a huge part of it that is, a symbolic acknowledgement that it's a problem, but as long as it creates no costs, and as long as we don't have to pay back, and as long as we don't have to think about deeper forms of justice in relationship to how we use somebody else's culture.